Hello, my name is John. Thank you for joining me again. Today we are going to look at groupers and group dynamics, so let's get right on into Unity. In the last video, we created a little castle in Archimatix, and if you look into the graph editor, you will notice that some of the nodes are colored yellow. These are groupers. You can also tell by the title at the top of the node. It says it's a grouper. A grouper is sort of like a folder. It's a collection of related items that together form an object that you want to keep in one place. For example, in this case, it's the tower, and in this case, it's the wall segment. You can go inside of a grouper by double-clicking on the picture or any part of it. Groupers can be nested. As you can see, inside of this tower grouper are two more groupers. One is a folder or grouper for the base of the tower, and one is for the top. Let's go inside one of these, for example the base. Double-click on the picture, and now you can see the nodes that the tower base is made of. A grouper is useful for a couple different reasons. First of all, it keeps your graph editor organized by keeping all of the related nodes together, grouped into one single node. Secondly, a grouper has its own pivot point which is separate from its parent's pivot point, which can be useful in positioning or rotating the object. The nodes that you put inside of a grouper cannot have a direct connection to other nodes outside of the grouper, but you can create proxy parameters that can be added to the list of the grouper's parameters to relate the connection between the nodes inside and outside of the grouper. Let's start a new scene and see how groupers can be created and used. I want to create some sort of building, and for the floor plan I'll create a combination of a few different shapes. I will combine a rectangle for the main body of the building with a circle on one end and a hexagon on the other side. The main building will be 24 meters long and 16 meters wide. I will make the radius of the circle and the hexagon 5 meters so they protrude out of the ends of the rectangle. Here I'm using a shape merger node to merge the three shapes together. If you don't remember how to do this, please watch the previous videos in this playlist. Now I will position the circle and the hexagon on opposite ends of the main building. For precision, you can type exact values into the input fields. The shape merger node will show the resulting shape, and currently the circle is being subtracted, so I will have to flip it. Okay, I'm happy with this floor plan shape. Let's extrude it to create a 3D object. If you don't remember how we did this before, you can watch my previous videos and it will show you how objects are extruded. I want the height of my floor to be 3 meters, which is about 10 feet. You can adjust the thumbnails by holding on the red little ball icon and moving it around. This is what the hidden cameras under your AX Model 1 are for. The thumbnail camera and the thumbnail light are disabled, but they provide this little thumbnail. Alright, let's paint the walls of this building. I will choose a base material for my mesh. Now for some pillars. I'll take the same plan that creates the floor and connect it to a plan repeater plan node. This node requires two inputs, and I need to connect either a section or a corner mesh, node mesh, and cell mesh. I will pick a 3D object such as a cube and use it to create a corner mesh and a node mesh. I will use the same geometry for both corner and node mesh. I'd like the height of the pillars to always be the same as the height of the floor. So I will connect the height from the floor directly into the height of the pillar. Now if I choose to increase the height of the floor, the pillars will increase likewise. My pillars don't look quite right yet, so let's fix that. I don't want to angle the corners, so I will uncheck that box. That's the corners angle checkbox. And I want to increase the width of the base to perhaps 4. Feel free to adjust the other attributes until you find out what they do and you get the results that you desire. Now I will make the pillars a little bit thinner. You can also type the values in the inspector. And give them a material. Next, let's add some arches in between. I will use a pre-made arch directly from the Archimatix 3D library. I will feed the output of the arch into the cell mesh of the plan repeater node. The height of the arch is controlled by the parameter called archpanelshape.height, which is changing on the bottom of my scene view window as I'm dragging it up and down. I want this to be exactly the same as the height of the floor, so I will bind the two parameters together. Although I can see the parameter in the inspector, I can't seem to find it in the node in the graph view. This is terribly frustrating to me, so in the end, I decided to simply set the height of the arch to 3, which is the height of my floor. Of course, if I change the height of my floor sometime in the future, I'm gonna have to manually adjust the height of the arches because they're not parametrically bound to the height of the wall. This is terribly frustrating to me, but the tutorial must go on. So let's adjust the thickness of the arches now. Not bad, if I do say so myself. Now let's paint those arches. I consider it only a temporary paint job, because in the end I will probably export the model out and paint it properly in Substance Painter. Feel free to mess around with some of the controls in the plan repeater node. and see if you can adjust the model to something that you like. I see some poorly intersecting geometry here, but we can fix that pretty easily. First, we have too many pillars around some sections, so let's thin them out. I don't think I will use a node mesh. I will use a corner mesh and a cell mesh only for this building. To control repeater behavior around rounded surfaces, like here at the end of our building, you can use the corner break parameter. The full name of it is corner break angle. I will decrease mine to 10 degrees to manage the ends of the building. We will need to do some adjustments here, but I can do that later in Maya. Now we just need to add a ledge at the top of the floor. I will use the floor plan that we created the walls with and plan sweep it out to create the ledge. For the plan sweep, I also need to feed it a section. I will look in my 2D library to find an appropriate section. I will choose this one. It's way too large right now, so I will scale it down. Something like this will work fine. Let's move it into position. It also needs to be offset to cover the outer edge of the wall. Drag the dot in the blue circle to move it around. That's about right. I will give it a material as well. We don't need to have Kyle here, so I will uncheck him in the bottom of the scene view. This completes one floor of the building that we want to make. As you can see, our node view is starting to get really messy. I will use the floor plan later to build other things such as the roof, but everything that's coming out of it currently is the geometry that makes up one floor of the building. Let's select it all by dragging a rectangle around those nodes, and on the right hand side find the grouper. It looks like this. When you click on it, it groups the whole floor into one node, which is a grouper node. You can tell it's a grouper node because it's colored yellow. Now let's use this grouper node to create a multi-story building. I'll take the output mesh and connect it to a floor repeater node. As you can see, by default, it created a 4-story building. You can increase or decrease the size of this building, the height of this building, by dragging up and down on the handle. I would recommend to put in an exact value, which is a multiple of 3, which is exactly how tall one of our floors is supposed to be, to get all the floors to be exactly 3 meters tall. You can do that in the node or in the inspector on the right hand side. Where it says size, currently it says 13.29997. I will change that to exactly 12. You can see our base size is 3, which is the height of each floor. And it tells you actual cells is 4, we have 4 floors. Actual base size is 3, and edge count is 100. Now you can see that our graph editor is much cleaner. We have the floor plan, which has some shapes coming into it. We have a single floor which is in a grouper, and we have the floor repeater, which creates the other stories of our building. If we double click on the grouper, you can see all the nodes that make up this single floor. To get back out of it, at the top you will see what's called breadcrumbs, and you can see the path that you're in. I will click on axmodel_1 to get back out into the root model. You can create and combine other elements to make your building. Sometimes the building has different sections or different parts. There could be a lobby that would be created in a separate grouper, a roof, and perhaps other sections joining to the building. Just for show, I'm going to add another tower to this group. I will just use a prefabricated tower as we have used before. You can see this tower is also a grouper. The reason I wanted to bring this tower in is to show you that each grouper has its separate pivot point, and I can drag each grouper around. It has its own local pivot point. We are not going to use this tower for this building, so I will delete it. But in a future video, we will continue to add a roof and perhaps some other elements to this building. I looked online for 3D models of various buildings to see what would be interesting to make with Archimatix. When you look at different facades, take a note of repetition and different elements that make up a building. Think about how you can break up a building into different sections that you can model in Archimatix. The idea of Archimatix is to create the basic shape of the building, not the details. Those you can do in a polygonal 3D animation or 3D modeling package such as Maya or 3D Studio Max or Blender or many others. Once you create the shape and the behavior of the building, you will easily be able to create multiple versions of it by changing your floor plan and other shapes and behaviors. So today we learned about the grouper node and how to organize your graph view better. Next time I'd like to go deeper into expressions and how you can bind your parameters together. After that, I'd like to make a couple videos about how to put our skills into practice and make some interesting buildings. For example, we can complete the European building that we started today, make a modern high-rise building, or perhaps a haunted house. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.